Welcome back to Blindside. And this episode was brought to you by CTrack, the power to predict. So we're wrapping up our visit in KZN, and we had the privilege to visit Kearsney. What an amazing coaching staff.
Yeah, look, if you have the names involved that they have, from a KZN perspective, it's probably, just from a pure coaching background, they've got the best of the best. Grant Bashford, Tera, Keegan. It's extremely rich, to be honest. They've made some subtle but very big changes, and I think they're going to absolutely reap the reward from this. Johnny, I mean, we walked in there, and to see the passion of those three guys, knowing where they come from, where they've coached, the coaches' boxes that they sat in, that's quite exceptional.
I think what stands out to me, look, it's a private school. So there's a vast difference between everything when it comes to a private school versus our traditional government schools. I would like to see nothing more than some of these private schools, really competing with the bigger schools in South Africa. And for a private school to get to that standard of competition, you've got to change your behaviors and you've got to change doing things, because we cannot expect different results if we keep on going on the same routine. It's a great school, phenomenal school, and we'll elaborate on that. But you can clearly see that Kearsney is on a drive to compete. You can clearly see that they're making changes. They're playing the chess game very subtly. And without a doubt, with that coaching staff there, we will hear that name more and more in the bigger competitions.
Absolutely. Our first interview or conversation was with Tera and Bashi, and this interview was brought to you by Nashua. Bashi, Tera, it is really an honor for us to visit you guys here at Kearsney, and it's always an honor to chat to the guys who are doing the hard work, who are putting in the hard yards, all the stuff that nobody normally hears of, and that's what the show is all about. Blindside, we want to take people in your community behind the scenes and showing them, what happens and how much work and dedication it takes to get the program to where it is. So, Vash, I'm going to start off with you. You obviously need no introduction, but I'd love for the guys just to get a bit of a background of your coaching career, where you started, where you are now, because I think it's important that people understand that this place is in real good hands. Same with you, Tera. I think there's some proper coaching going on here. So just take us through that.
Sure. I come from a teaching background, so I studied at Edgewood Teachers Training College as a maths and physics teacher. Played rugby and cricket for Natal, so obviously my love was sport. And through phys ed and teaching in those days, the teachers coached. So I was playing, and then when the game went professional, I probably wasn't going to be contracted. I was playing rugby for the Sharks at the time, and I picked up an ankle injury, and that sort of got me focusing on my coaching, because I was doing it in any way as a school coach.
Yeah.
So our natural progression from Northwood, where I was coaching at the time, was the Old Boys Club Crusaders. So I went through the under-20 system there and started coaching the first team fairly young at Crusaders. I was very young. And because of that, got asked to go and help coach the provincial junior side. So involvement with the Natal under-19s and the Natal under-21s with Sways de Brain at the time. And that progressed to a full-time coaching job in the coaching department, where we did level 1, 2 and 3 coaching courses for club coaches and school coaches. And my job was clubs, so I used to go out into the clubs in the evenings and help the coaches then. And that was all run by Garth Giles. We had a wonderful setup there at the union with the coaching department. And then when Dick Muir arrived in 2005 at the Sharks, I'd played a lot of rugby with Dick, and he was a good mate of mine. And because of my involvement with the junior sides, he pulled me up to go and coach the main team, the Sharks main team. And I think that was probably because my involvement with under-21s we had a hell of a nice under 21 side at the time with no one knew these guys' names. It was the Keegan Daniels, Tera and Mtembus, JP Peterson, Brad Barretts, Ruan Pinars, France Staines, Waylon Murray, a hell of a group, Beastie, all the boys were in the system. And Dickie was brave enough to pick them, as youngsters. And I think my first year with the Sharks was the side that came last in Super Rugby was going to be relegated. And everyone banked that on being the Sharks. And we ended up missing out on a semi-final on points difference. It was a great year with a combination of youngsters and senior players. So yeah, pretty much that was my coaching career. Since then I coached at the Sharks for 8 years, and then when we left in 2013, my old school, Northwood, got hold of me to go back there. And I spent another few years really, they were in a bad place at the time, and we put some good structures in place to grow it. And I can think if you look at where Northwood is now, it's in a really different place. I think when I started we were 113th or something. When I left we were 14th in the country. And the only reason I left, I had an opportunity to go and coach the Cannon Eagles in Japan. Albert van der Berg, another guy that I used to coach at the Sharks, he has just started coaching, and he phoned me and said, will I go and help them? So I went on a thing called spot coaching to Japan. And while I was there, they asked me if I'd come and take over full time. And I said, look, I don't think it's the place for me, but would I go back again? And I went back a second time. And the second time I went back, they put so much money in front of you, you sort of can't say no. So I went for the wrong reasons, and I didn't enjoy it. So I resigned after 6 months. Northwood offered me the job back at the school, and went back there for a few more years. And then the job in Dickie, once again, Dick Muir got a job coaching the Russian national team, and got hold of me and said, listen, would I go and do that with him? So we headed off to Russia and spent 6 months in Russia coaching that team, and then the war started. So overnight our jobs were World Rugby appointments, and so our contracts were suspended. And came back, got involved in my old club, Crusaders, for 6 months, and after that did a little bit of a teaching stint, a director of sports at Clifton in Durban, and I was in the wrong role at Clifton. That's admin and parents and computers and no coaching, and I really missed the coaching. And Keegan had just started Tera as director of sport, director of rugby, and I think when he saw I wasn't really happy in my role, approached me, and I just said absolutely, I'd been missing the coaching. And so this year's been my first year at Kearsney, and I've absolutely loved it, being involved with my ex-players again, Keegan Daniel and Tera and Mtembu. So it's been a full circle, but really, really enjoyable.
Fantastic. And Tera, obviously a young coach, call it that, but I mean, you are sitting next to royalty when it comes to KwaZulu-Natal in terms of coaching, and obviously you must be learning quite a bit from Bash, but obviously being able to express yourself as well with your role.
Yeah, 100%. I think I've learned, and still learning from the Silver Fox, as I call him. And I think the biggest thing, as much as, we could go talk tactics, and it's just how he treats people, how he treats us, how he makes us feel, which is part of my philosophy, is treating people how I'd like them to treat me. So it's been a really enjoyable year. I've only been coaching maybe 5 years now since I retired, 4 years. So yeah, I'm still learning, and I've enjoyed every minute.
Great opportunity. And so obviously you guys are in an off season now, and just talk me a bit through that, because there's different sports as well, summer sports happening, etc. And how important is an off-season preparation for you guys? Do you have enough time to actually work with the players? Are your rugby boys more rugby focused? How do you manage an off-season?
Good question. So I started on the 17th of June last year, and obviously that was right at the end of rugby season. So we went to the Independent Schools Festival with the young group, and they hadn't had a great run. And they had some really good results at the ISF competition with the young group, and that got me a good chance just to see the talent that was available, because I hadn't watched any rugby during the year, and that took us into our pre-season. So in Durban you have sevens in the third term, so we played the sevens tournament, and that also gave me a good idea of getting to see the players we had. And then we started full-time a pre-season or off-season program in the gym, and then into pre-season. The one thing I do like about Kearsney, and it's probably because it's the way we grew up. So I played rugby and cricket, loved both of those sports, and we really encourage the kids here to be involved in other sports. So I had probably 4 or 5 first team players this year that were grade 11s that play first team water polo, and some first team cricketers, and a boy that sang in the choir, you know. So we had a really diverse bunch of boys, and for me it's so nice to see guys like Riley Rousseau, I think his name is, the SA under-20 guy that played SA schools cricket and rugby, you know, where he's had to choose now, but in our day we could play both, you know. It was just so good. And I think to get that balance in your life, you know, end of rugby season, you're looking forward to your cricket, and end of cricket season, you're looking forward to your rugby.
Yeah.
So definitely, I mean, the top guys have to choose, but I think while you're still young enough and at school to get the ability to actually play both is fantastic, you know. So we bounce our pre-season program around our other sports. So this afternoon we'll train at 4:30, and the guys will be coming to us from water polo and cricket.
Okay.
And it's just managing their time. You know,
Yeah.
we gym on Mondays and Wednesdays, and we start on field today from 4:30 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And we manage them. You know, we don't train for long, but we train rugby-specific intensities. You know, we try and take the game that we play on a Saturday, which we can now measure with GPSs and that kind of stuff, and try and create a match-type environment in our training sessions every week. So it's not entertainment. It's really training the game of rugby, not the basics like you would think, but the basics around the type of game that we want to play at Kearsney, you know, our brand of rugby. And, you know, you often see teams that train a certain way, but when they play, they run out of legs because they play a different style to the way they train. So that's sort of been our mindset, trying to just really replicate our game in training and try and train specifically for the brand of rugby that we want to play here at Kearsney.
Tera, how important is individual skills versus structured rugby for you? Because I know, you know, historically Natal plays what's in front of them instead of, you know, sticking to specific patterns, etc. How important is that individual skills component here at Kearsney?
I think it's super important. I always ask, when I'm in a new group, I always ask the first question, one of the first questions I ask, if you had to explain to me how you play rugby, act as if I don't know what the sport is. And it's amazing what sort of answers you come up with. You need a maul. Then I'm like, okay, hold on. When you play touch rugby, do you need a maul? There's no maul in a touch rugby game. So then they come up with a kicking game, but you can play touch without kicking. The simple answer is you pass backwards and run forward. If you can't do those things, you can't play any type of game that you want, unless you have a talented 10 who can kick you out of trouble. Like in a professional setup, but a big focus on those micro skills and the ability to catch the ball and pass, and identifying space is something that we've really focused on maybe in the past year from our juniors, because I'll be involved with under 15s now as well, so to try and instill those fundamentals by the time they get to a first team level, it's more around your structured play. So we try and encourage kids at a young age just to play and make decisions, fail, learn from their failures, because they'll benefit a couple of years further.
So again, on that, when we talk about your junior structures, is that Keegan pretty much overseeing that, making sure that, you know, you keep your coaches accountable for bringing those, call it fundamentals through? And is that a sort of like everybody speaks the same language, everybody sort of like use the same type of basic elements of the game? Is that where you're going with it?
You can probably bet our focus this year entirely, because it was my first year on the first team, so I didn't get to spend too much time down.
Yeah.
But it is an area that, so Keegan's going to coach one of the junior sides this year, and Tera's going to coach another one. So we are sort of spreading the word down. And the plan is definitely to have a common language right throughout the school, and not necessarily play the same. I think everyone says structure and that kind of stuff, and I think from year to year at schools, your teams change so much, you know. So this year we didn't have a forward pack, but we had good backs. Next year we're going to have a forward pack and not as good backs. So if you play the same, you're probably not going to get the same results. You know, you've got to adjust. And the beauty of school is you often don't have an out-and-out 120 kg prop, so you've got to find a guy that can survive there, you know, and play a different way. I don't think we I don't think we scrummed this year. We just went channel 1 ball every scrum, and I think we got penalised 5 times in the whole year at the scrum.
Yeah.
So we got our game going without scrumming. And we didn't maul, you know. So we played. We moved the ball around the field. We tried to run teams off their feet. And I think if you had spoken to the Kearsney community going into this year, everyone seemed, I got you, and everyone said, you're crazy to take this job. You're going to have a hell of a year, the teams. But we ended up winning 8 out of 14, and we had some big wins. We beat Pretoria Boys, we beat Glenwood, we beat St. Stithians on our Old Boys Day. And So yeah, I think there's a number of ways to play this game, and I think the beauty at school sport is it changes every year. You know, teams think they've got a great year this year, but next year is a building year, and the following year you're good again. So it's moving, it's evolving all the time. You know.
Yeah, Tera, you wanted to?
Yeah, I think on that, I think what Keegan's done well. When I arrived a year just before him, and as soon as he took over, his big thing was alignment. Across the board, so it's been like a work in progress for him. Same language. Each age group will have a focus point to improve on up until they get to first team. Obviously, dependent on the personnel and the type of players that you have. Where like the under-16s this year had a massive forward pack, so I think they scored 80% of their tries. Whereas under 15s a little bit more balanced, under 14 a bit more balanced as well. So I think Keegan's done well in terms of the alignment factor.
So, and I just want to touch on what you just said. I mean, and this is, I think, where a lot of schools or coaches, let me not say schools, because I think it's more the individual than anything else. Players are not always the same at every age group, and some get better later on and, you know, develop a bit later on. But like you said, Bashi, there's so many schools that stick to a certain, call it structural of, I want to play with my forwards, and that's that. And, you know, whether he's got a good pack of forwards or not, he sticks to that. And for me, it's more about first of all, I think it's upskilling coaches to able, first of all, recognize that type of scenario, and secondly, to be adaptable in actually creating other opportunities for players to play into this strength. You know, how do you feel about the upskill? I mean, you were involved at the Sharks in upskilling coaches, and we spend a bit of time with the Sharks, and they're really keen on doing that. Really keen on getting, you know, the school coaches involved and actually learn from each other. They're not saying they know everything, which I actually enjoyed quite a bit. They said, look, that caucus is more of you know, learning from each other and understanding, you know, everybody's position. So you guys, obviously, you've been with the Sharks so many years. How willing are you guys to actually join that and get aligned with them and share ideas, etc.? I mean, basically, surely they can learn quite a bit from you still.
One thing with coaching, I mean, I learn every day from these kids. You know, you never. The game evolves. You know, so you learning. It's a continual. I think the minute in rugby, and I think if you look at Rassie, what Rassie's done really well for me is he's been a little bit untraditional from a South African coach, where he's been willing to bring in a Kiwi attack coach and an Irish defence coach, and that shows his growth mindset. You know, that he hasn't become lager mentality, and this is our way. He's grown the Bok brand, you know, the way he's done it with different styles of play. So yeah, I mean, I'm lucky enough because I know I coached with Plum for a long time. He's coaching the Sharks, and I go and sit in their meetings and we chat a lot about the game and go and watch their training sessions. He's been up here and helped us, the Kearsney boys. Tera spends a lot of time down there. So I feel, and it's not just me. I mean, I go down to the Sharks on a training day, and there'll be a couple of Peter Engel down. I've seen down there I've seen James Fleming from Michael House. So they've done a good job, and like it's an open family, the Sharks. A lot of I'm pretty Dusty Noble coaches, the Natal school side. JP's related to Dusty, and there's a real openness about how things are done. So definitely, you know, that sharing. I mean, like you said, I was fortunate. You know, I was a school teacher, so teaching's been part of my life since I was 19 years old. I think it's my 39th year of coaching this year. You know, so I've done it from schoolboys right through, but the basics stay the same. You know, I think the higher up you go, people think it gets more. It becomes more man management. The higher up you go, more than the rugby. And I don't think you get to those levels unless you've got a pretty good idea about how the game of rugby is played, but it becomes more of the people dynamics, how you can manage situations rather than rugby per se. But yeah, I mean, it's the coaching of the coaches is everything. You know, as coaches, how do you learn? You know, so when you don't have that ability to go and watch places, you can analyse games of rugby. You know, you can tape the game on Saturday and watch it in slow motion on Sunday. You know, and if you want to know what Leinster are doing, just analyse them. You can work it all out. So that's not the issue. The problem is if you don't have the players like Leinster, you don't try and play like them. You know, so you've actually got to understand all the aspects it comes from. So you have your brand. So we had a brand last year, and we've just been through on Monday. We presented to the group, and I'd done a session with all of our coaches, not just the first team coaches. I got down to 14A, our 15A, our 16A coaches, plus us, and said, right, you watched us play all year. What was our point of difference? Tell me about us. And I'd done it personally, and then I got our leadership group to do it. And then we looked at where the synergies were, and well, that's pretty much now how do we evolve that this year? So that was a process that wasn't just me. I mean, Keegan and Tera, but we all in this together, you know, it was, and the leadership group, and sort of we've come up with how we want to evolve our game based around the strengths of the players that we've got joining us next year. So an evolution doesn't mean you come out with a whole new game plan. It's just little tweaks and what can we do a bit differently, and that's a team dynamics thing, you know. So we're all involved in that. It's certainly not bashy. I'm so blessed to have these guys that I've coached since they were young, and I'll be assets to any rugby organisation, to be honest.
Fantastic. You've got a fairly good base for next year, having had quite a bit of an grade 11, in this year's setup. What could we expect, but I hate asking that question because I don't want to add pressure, but what can we expect from Kearsney for next year?
Interesting. So my slide that I did in my presentation said 2026, an exciting year that guarantees nothing. You know, and that's the beauty of it. You know, I've coached school teams where you think that this is the year and it's not the year you think, and then you have teams that you think, geez, this team's going to struggle, and end up having. And that comes a lot with attitude and the commitment of the boys. And there's so many dynamics to a game of rugby that you all know, and it's about how you keep growing, you know, growing yourselves, growing your players, keeping the most important thing for me still and always will be is the fun element, you know, that we try and make it fun. And we say to the kids, if we don't give you the best year of rugby of your life, then we failed, you know, as coaches. So fun is important, not just for the kids, for us. I want us as coaches, when we go on tours, we must have fun. We must look forward to it, you know. And I think you lose that a bit. You know, I think you can look at coaches sitting in boxes and there's no fun there. You know, it's and that's what I've really enjoyed about doing the different levels. I've really tried wherever I've been to not take it too seriously and not take the highs too high and the lows too low, but just really enjoy your job. And build relationships and grow friendships with the players you coach. And I think that for me is the game of rugby right there. It's not necessarily about the results on Saturday that you remember. It's the times you have together that stick, you know.
If you can give me a sentence or a phrase that sort of like defines the character of this school and its rugby program, what would that be, Tera?
Glad they asked you that.
I think it's just one word, it's character. And I only joined the school in 2022. When I was at school, I went to Tera College. I played against, I came here for 2 years at the Kearsney Festival, got to watch Kearsney, and their ability to always find a way to not give up. Which shows a lot of character. If you look at over the years with the Dupree brothers, if you look at the results, we did hit a bit of a slump, but then if you look at the games that Bash mentioned earlier, with Pretoria Boys came back from behind, Glenwood had to come back from behind, St. Stithians had to come back from behind, and even some games that we lost that, I mean, the score doesn't reflect what happened on the day. So we actually make it known that we are not rated. We are seen to be these private school rich kids were soft. And that's the talk, and then we have these conversations, and we put the challenge to them to prove to ourselves, not to those people, that we're not those guys. And we've got the character, and we've got the fight. But that all means nothing if we don't put the work in now, and that's the plan, and we're gonna work as hard as we can, enjoy it, and hopefully we get some decent results. If we chase performance, we don't really chase results, we chase performance. If you chase performance, do the right things, you're more than likely going to get the result.
Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm very excited about what you guys are doing. Obviously, like you say, there's no guarantees in anything, but I think the heart and soul of what you're trying to achieve here is to build that character, to get the guys to really go and enjoy themselves and give it everything they've got within what you're trying to do. And it's nice to see. We're going to definitely come back to cover a derby at some point. It'll be great fun. And Bashi, it's amazing to see you in this type of environment, with all your knowledge and expertise that can only get better and learn. And I wish you guys all the best for next season. And we'll definitely be back.
Awesome.
Thank you so
Thanks
much
for having us.
Thanks.
We celebrate great achievements by extraordinary South Africans so that we can inspire our youth, and then we want to empower them to reach their full potential.
We are here to celebrate history.
He who has a big enough why can bear with anyhow.
They will leave behind a legacy.
We will never stop creating hope for our future generation.
What an incredible interview, Tace. Let's talk about Bashi's experience a bit.
Yeah, I think he's been in every coaching box for the Sharks for a number of years. I mean, with Dick Meir and with Plum. Obviously, he had the opportunity to go to Japan, spend some time there. When Dickie got the appointment to coach Russia, just recently, before the war stopped and they had to come back, he was on that coaching staff again. So I think the amount of, if you just looked in which teams he's served as a coach or assistant coach, immense respect that everybody's got for him. And again, he's so experienced in working with youngsters coming into his squad. He spent a lot of time at club rugby. He was part of the development or the development structure within the Sharks, developing coaches. So I mean, he's got immense respect in KZN. And then Keegan told us, we'll listen to him shortly, but he told us, he was in the role for I think 4 or 5 months, and the first guy he called was Bash. Was coached by Bashi when he was a player,
and the same. Something.
Yeah, the same with Tera. So, and again, I think that respect factor is heck of important. Also when it comes to what the boys see, the respect these guys in their coaching structures got for each other is immense, and I think that'll definitely rub off, on the players. He started talking about the off season, and rightfully so. This is Johnny, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first ever appointed first team coach for Kearsney. They've always had a director or a head of rugby, but if I'm not mistaken, this is their first appointed first team coach when they appointed Bashi.
I spoke about it earlier, the changes that they're busy making. I mean, for the first time, that school's been going for a long time, and for the first time to have a dedicated first team coach. It says something. These guys are making changes. They're keeping up with what's busy happening with high school rugby in South Africa. So yeah, it's a great move, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think, look, Bashi has got a great off-season program happening. He's spent a lot of time in discussing that in this interview. The planning they've got, bringing certain, Kearsney is very rich when it comes to culture and all the rest of it, but he wants to bring something different to the table in terms of, that professionalism and getting the boys really excited. He spoke about getting the guys to really enjoy rugby again. And that comes from hard work as well. They understand that there's a lot of work to be done for Kearsney to really cement themselves in the place that they want to go to. And, to be honest, I hope the community understand how privileged they are to have a guy like Bashi there, and Tera for that matter as well. I mean, the fact that they've been working together in a different environment for a substantial period of time, it just makes that dynamic easier. With Bashi having been the coach when they were playing, doesn't matter what the roles are really, the respect remains, and I think that'll only enrich the rugby program.
Look, there's a very. Let's talk about the school. We all know it's public knowledge what the school fees are at that school. It's just extremely rich. The reality is that whoever sends their children to that school has got a certain expectation of culture, tradition, discipline. And quite frankly, whether in your normal government school or whether you're in that private school, sport has got the power to change, more than politics do. So while you're at it, and while you're at that school, why not invest time and effort to make the rugby great in that school as well? Because I can promise you that kids going to that school's got talent as well. And that's what I like. Obviously there's a different mentality of why parents send their kids to that school, because they want to holistically develop their kids, which makes 100% sense. But for me, the important thing is the school is now looking at this and saying, we've got this certain portfolio child and a certain expectation from the parent, but we're going to take rugby, which is at this stage probably the biggest sport in South Africa when it comes to school sport. And let's make the best of that as well. That's nice to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, they've produced some proper rugby players. I mean, the Dupree brothers was the last ones they can speak about, and I mean they've done what they've done, phenomenal careers. But I think it's it's time to recreate some more of those, and they couldn't have gotten better role players to actually make that happen.
100%.
Speaking about Keegan Daniel, we also had an opportunity to have a discussion with him as Director of Rugby, and this segment is brought to you by CTrack. Johnny Burger, it's such a pleasure to have a Springbok legend at the Sharks, and obviously now Director of Rugby at Kearsney College with us. Keegan, thank you so much for joining us. It's a huge honor.
No, thank you. It's good to be here and looking forward to sharing.
Yeah. Keegan, tell us, obviously you played and then your career ended up and you went into business and then why schoolboy rugby?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that I think maybe it found me rather than me finding it. Our current first team coach was coaching at another school here in KZN, and he rang me up and asked me to come and help with some lineouts, and he said it was going to be 45 minutes on a Monday, and that 45 minutes turned to an hour, which turned to Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And I think the thing that really attracted me to coaching at a schoolboy level was just that they were playing for one thing and one thing only, and that was the pride of their school. There was no contracts, there was no endorsements or anything like that. So that was what really drew me towards it, and also the fact that you can see progress happen really, really quickly. Students that are eager to learn, there's satisfaction in seeing young rugby players improve week in and week out.
Your role here is obviously not as such coaching, or obviously you will be involved with the junior sides a year from next year, but your role here is more aligning everything, it's more getting everything in some sort of a DNA that you guys want to achieve, right?
Yeah, I think part of the role is to try and align, as you said, everyone people use the phrase blueprint. I don't really enjoy that phrase that much. I think it's more about a philosophy what we're trying to achieve and what the long-term goal is. And part of that is that, it's not all about the wins. There's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes, and it's more about a purpose. And I think if you follow that purpose throughout our age groups, and it's almost like being at school. You don't teach them a trick level maths in grade 8. You've got to have a bit of a curriculum, and you want to build that up so that by the time they get to that grade 11, grade 12 age group, that they've got the fundamentals and understanding of the game, that we can get a little bit more complex when we get a little bit older with the boys. So that's kind of the primary role, and obviously with that comes relationship with parents, involved in recruitment. But one of the things when I took on this role, I said that I still wanted to coach, because that at the end of the day is the bread and butter, and getting on the field. You don't just want to be in the office doing paperwork and that sort of thing, but you also want to be able to, walk the talk as well. So I think setting that example through action is really powerful. When other coaches can see, you in the trenches with them, that sends a powerful message.
Yeah, Keegan, that is one of the most prestigious schools in the country. We all know it's expensive to come here. So there's a certain profile kid that gets admitted to the school. And with that comes a huge responsibility, because obviously the type of parent has got either always own business or is in a exec position. From a scoreboard pressure perspective, how tough is it to be the director of rugby? When you're sitting with a incredible parent team that's strong-willed, they leaders in own right, and the perception, how makes the perception from a winning side from those parents in the school?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I think first and foremost, I think the rugby landscape in South Africa is incredible. The schoolboy talent is next to none. I mean, you've seen the numbers explode on super sports schools. You've seen the derby games, the King Price derby that's taking part. I mean, people are really drawn to the passion and intensity of schoolboy rugby. Yes, we are at one of the top boys schools in the country, and ultimately we want to win. We want to prepare to win, we want to train to win, and we want to play to win. But I think at the end of the day, we've got to also realize that we aren't professional, and that these are young men, and they're playing the game because they love it. And there's a lot more to it at the end of the day than just the W. And I think part of that is the important thing is then to engage with parents so that they understand your philosophy and your why and the reason behind our thinking. And I find that as soon as they understand what we're trying to achieve, actually that pressure kind of goes away a little bit. I mean, I think I still feel it personally when you take a big loss and you're sitting in the office quietly after the game. But I think when the boys go home and they question, like, are you loving it? And the answer is yes, then that's what matters, at the end of the day.
Yeah, look, and I always say, don't tell me who you are, I will see for myself. And we firmly believe that character will always supersede talent. And I can just allude to your playing games. The way a player reacts on the field tells you a lot. You had this never die attitude. Obviously, you trained extremely hard because you were super fit. That's values that becomes part of your DNA. From a character perspective, I mean, you can have all the talent on the world, but when you run onto that field and you don't have the characteristics to really make it big time, you're going to fail ultimately. So how do you get that right? Instilling the characteristic traits of a Keegan Daniels into these youngsters?
Yeah, I certainly don't see that as part of my portfolio or my job. I think it's about identifying what good characteristics the boys have in themselves, and then trying to get that out of them as much as possible, and then possibly identifying areas that they aren't as strong and assisting them to be better. Our job is, as coaches, we like teachers. Our job is to educate them and try and get them to be the best version of themselves. And I suppose the nice thing is that because I've walked the journey, that perhaps my messages hold a bit more water than if someone else had to get that message across. Certainly being at a private school, I suppose one of the struggles that come with, if I'm going to be honest about characters, that a lot of because of the wealth that we have at schools like a Kearsney, you know, often a lot of boys have a fallback plan, and life happens a little bit easier for them outside of the campus. So it's about getting them to understand that's not a reality. And so what we really need to do is engage with the boys that for them this is their plan. You know, Kearsney College is their plan. And one of the areas that I speak to all the boys about is that for a lot of them, particularly our top boys, rugby opened the door for them, and it will open the door for them possibly after school. But academics is going to get them through the door. You know, you can be a great rugby player, but if you don't meet the standards to get into a varsity, the varsity cup's not an option for you, you know. So we have to make sure that we remind ourselves that first and foremost we're an academic institution. And then secondly, very, very close second, I hope, is that we put in the best effort for them from a sporting point of view.
Having obviously said what Johnny said, it's not your cheapest school in the country. So from a bursary
also
perspective,
not the most expensive.
No, that we know as well.
Yeah.
There's quite a few that are more expensive. Explain to me your bursary component. You know, the amount of kids that are here on a bursary or a sponsorship rather than actually paying.
Yeah. So I think that is the challenge. The way schoolboy rugby is at the moment, you need to be able to procure players, talented players. That's only one of the few ways you're going to stay competitive. If we look at the South African schoolboy landscape at the moment, I think people can phrase it however way they want to, but I think most of your top schools, if not all, are some way in form getting players in by assisting them, whether it's a bursary, a scholarship, financial assistance, whatever you say. They are, you know, getting the boys into the system, and we certainly do the same thing. We are very strategic in what we do. We are limited in the amount of scholarships that we can give boys, so it is really important that we make the right decision. We are heavily focused on our junior age group, so we try and get it right from a young age. We certainly we don't believe in the fact of bringing in 5 or 6 boys in a grade 11 year, because that's going to certainly upset your culture, and also it takes away from the boys that have been here 3 or 4 years at the same time. You know, but having said that, if there is opportunity to bring someone in, we would look at it. But the criteria is really, really high. So again, like I said, it is something that we do. But one of the philosophies that we work on now and we're changing is that we don't just scholarship a boy, we actually scholarship a family. So it's looking at a lot more than just someone's talent and talent alone. There has to be a lot more to it, and it is a gamble. You know, it's a big financial risk. You know, you're investing in a 12, 13-year-old boy, hoping that, you know, they're going to bear the fruits later down the line. And I think that's where the coaching structure comes into play, that they get the right coaching and teaching from a young age, so hopefully that they can reach their full potential.
Look, I believe that, let's take it from the age of 18 onwards. If you're lucky, you've got a playing career for about 17 years. And if you live to an average of 83 years until you pass away, that's another 50 years after rugby has ended. The sad reality, Keegan, is, and without throwing names out there, a lot of players relied on their talent. You know, then there comes a day when rugby finishes, the season is finished, and with that, the player falls.
Yeah.
What's the lessons that you have learned to ensure that you're not part of that stat?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a scary stat if we had to go and really dig into it. I think there's a false sense of reality that is created by for young sportsmen and women that get big contracts and they earn a lot of money at a young age. So if you look at a 22-year-old that's earning R1 million a month, there aren't a lot of 22-year-olds that are doing that. The others are at varsity studying to be accountants, lawyers, and entrepreneurs. And so what happens is they're gradually building up their financial revenue stream over a long period of time, and it becomes consistent. Unfortunately, with sport, you earn a lot of money for a short period of time and then it stops. So certainly I think there's a lot more work that can be done, and I'll speak freely by agents to be able to assist their players and guide them in the right way and offer them the right assistance, because at the end of the day, you know, we've moved away from, there's always going to be a new Keegan Daniel. There's always coming up in the ranks. So one thing that I pride myself in, I never put my identity in my rugby. I am who I am, but rugby was what I did. And secondly, fortunately, at that time, where I think the landscape of rugby's changed, there are a lot more younger players in squads. When I first joined, there were a lot more older players, so you could rely on their experience and learn from their errors. So the guidance was, I think at 26, I made the decision to say, well, if rugby stops tomorrow, what then? And then you start making some better decisions, and rugby's going to end. Every professional sportsman's going to retire twice at least.
Yeah.
That's the minimum.
True. So just from a season perspective, going into next season, like Bashir said, you guys got a great base of grade 11s of this year that pretty much was predominantly the side's biggest component, and then obviously you've got a great under 16s coming through as well. So obviously there's going to be massive expectation of the W, like you said. But how do you guys feel about next season? Are you excited about what's coming?
Yeah, can I tell you what? Even if we didn't have those players, I'd be excited about next season. I think every season offers you new opportunities, and as long as I think we stick to what our plan is and what we're trying to achieve long term, we'll be okay. I think we might lose a game that we should win, and we might upset one or two teams as well along the way. At the end of the day, we've got quite a small stable of boys to pick from, and the job is to get them, with the way we train with 30, 35 guys all the time. We have one squad, we one team, no matter what team we play for. Yes, this year we did have a number of grade 11s in our first side, which I think there's a big gap in that 1 year. And the fortunate thing is that we do have a really strong under 16 side. So at the end of the day, when competition is high, you get the best out of the players, And I think that we've seen that happening now, just in the few things that we've been doing at the moment.
Obviously, we all know this is a very unique school. So I want to talk a bit about the collective from a great spirit perspective in a school like Kearsney. So how much does the performance on the field contribute to the overall spirit of a group of boys in a unique school like this?
Well, I think we can speak as South Africans as a whole. The vibe after the Springboks win a game is very different to when they lose. I'm sure a lot of the pub owners would attest to that with their sales. But you speak to the boys and they feel it when we don't win, because there is, with all schools, I think there's a huge amount of pride that's put into sport. And when you are victorious, particularly at your first team level, then there is a bit of a better energy within the school, and the expectations are high. And that's part of the journey for them to understand. If you're going to be at the top of the mountain, you're going to catch the most wind. And if you don't like the wind, then climb down the mountain. And you have to embrace it at times. But I also think you've got to be mindful that you can play 20 fixtures and you can win 19 and lose your first team game, and it's perceived as you've been unsuccessful. I think we've got to change that narrative a little bit. When you're under 14 Cs have a great game, we should celebrate that as well. And we certainly are looking at that too. How can we champion those players that might not get all the glory when we're winning at a top level? And then the other flip side is as well, if you played 20 games and you've lost 19 and you're just winning the first team, then maybe you should be looking at your process at the same time. So I think there's a lot more to be celebrated in the sport in general than just your first team winning a game.
100% right. I think one thing that I find personally, and let's get to parents.
Yeah.
Okay. And I see it weekend in and weekend out. There's a percentage of parents in your normal mainstream schools that's really lost the plot. Yeah. Winning has become everything. They'll do anything. They believe their boy is a Springbok already, which is certainly not the case. And then the mannerism next to the field is out of hand.
Yeah.
People, some parents just don't know how to behave. And obviously this is a school that's unique because there's a lot of intellectual parents, whether you're a CEO of a corporate or a listed company. Those are the type of parents. How do you manage from a school perspective? Because I'll tell you what, if I'm a director of rugby, or if I'm a teacher and the CEO or president of a Bidvest comes to talk to me, yeah. There's a certain respect by default. How do you handle parents that might go out of line in an institution like this?
Yeah, I think that's one of the tricky roads you got to navigate as director of rugby or in charge of any sport in a school environment. I think you've got to humanize it. You might be the CEO of a big company, but at the end of the day, you're addressing me as a parent. Sure. And being part of the school, I'm locus parentis to your kid when you're not here. So let's talk to each other on this level, and there needs to be a level of respect. And I think the big thing with a lot of parents, one, acknowledge that they're actually passionate and they care. So it's coming from a good place, but it's how you actually verbalize and what you're feeling at the time. A lot of boys are put under extreme amount of pressure. And one of the interesting things is, when a parent coaches their kid, it doesn't allow the kid to make mistakes and also doesn't allow the coach to coach. They get pulled in so many different directions, and I think it's just about being honest and being frank. And there's a way in which that can happen and can be done. And look, I've certainly had some of my own challenges, and sometimes I don't have all the answers. And you just got to be honest about that and say, look, I actually don't have the answers. And at the end of the day, they are paying for their boys to be at the school, and as such, I need to be accountable for whether things are going good or going poorly. But at the end of the day, just remind them that these are just boys. When you watch your boys play rugby or cricket in their back garden, you aren't sitting there screaming and shouting when they're not doing the right thing or right. And I find just sit back and enjoy. Similarly to us as coaches, certainly our philosophy, what we're trying to get through is all our coaches sit down, watch the game, talk to them at halftime.
Yeah.
Let them learn by making mistakes. So.
Yeah, very interesting for me, and I have to congratulate this institution. So let me take you a step back. Again, perception. When you live in Pretoria and you live in Pretoria East, it's a huge difference. Yes. And there's a lot of regions within Pretoria that will point fingers towards Pretoria East and say that's the rich and the wealthy and those stuff, all kinds of stuff. The reality is, my daughter played a national softball tournament here 2 years ago, and we came down for a week. And the mannerism of all the kids in the school was exceptional. They greet you with respect, they treat you with respect, they want to help you carry. I mean, these kids come from a great background, but still, this school is instilling values that I absolutely loved. And I think that perceptions sometimes go hayward because whether it's jealousy, whether call it what you want to, but these values that I see in this school, I've experienced it myself, which is beautiful. Regardless of where you come from, regardless of who your father is, the basics gets installed in the school. I saw it, and well done on that. I think that's something that you guys are getting right.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly not just me. I think that's generations of staff members and headmasters and deputies that have been at the school for a really long time, and they've been really consistent in instilling these values, and just the staff members buying into the fact that we have to sing off the same hymn sheet if we're going to get it right. And we are consistent in that. And at the end of the day, we want the boys to leave this campus, wherever they are. They'll represent Kearsney for the rest of their lives. And that when people look at them and say, geez, that's a Kearsney old boy, I think, in the way in which they carry themselves and they behave. And that's just testament to the consistency in instilling those values from the staff members.
Yeah, I think from a parent's perspective, and we've got two boys still in school as well. The bottom line is sometimes they are more emotionally intelligent than we are. They handle things better because they are in a culture where respect and these things are instilled, and proper values. I think we get aggressive and anxious and all the rest of it based on a win or a loss, and commentary next to a field of a parent of a different school. Yeah. And I think, like Johnny says, sometimes we must just take a step back as supporters, as parents, as old boys, and give you guys that are really trying to do something special with these kids. Give you guys a proper opportunity to instill those values, and like Johnny said, we congratulate you that. I mean, you guys are really doing a phenomenal job. We saw it with the two boys that we interviewed.
Yeah, thank you.
And we wish you all the best for next season, and obviously beyond. You've got a great team around you, Bash and the boys. I mean, you've been in rugby for most of your lives.
Yeah, super lucky to have a good team. Yeah, really lucky. Yeah,
and I think that'll just make Kearsney, one of the best to look out for. And surely I hope that consistency comes with the scouting and all the rest of it. And we'll definitely be we're watching you guys closely.
No, thanks guys, thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, I must tell you what stands out for me when I drove in here this morning, and your whole team that came out, is the humble spirit. There's humility in the school, and I can certainly say that you'll never overpromise and underdeliver. I'm a fan of yours, not because of the ability to play rugby, because of the character of Keegan Daniels, and I believe that you're at the right place. I'm very excited to see what's going to happen with the school. I think there's a great management team and a rugby team in place, and yeah, may we present in the school not only Springbok players, but Springbok fathers, Springbok husbands to their wives, Springbok citizens, and an institution like this can only be successful. A right team, Dace, we saw it. It's a great bunch of guys, and I'll be back for a derby next year, and I'm extremely excited.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. VIP passes.
There we go.
We'd love to have you back, so thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
It's the workers who serve the public that keep life moving forward. For 40 years, CTrack has been on this journey with you. We make every road traveled safer and smarter with optimized efficiency.
Yes, Dace, let's talk about Keegan. He was a professional rugby player, played for the Springboks, and now a director of rugby.
Yeah, again, you know, he's a very humble guy, and I think in that specific role you need that. To be quite frank, it's a key factor when you appoint a director. You know, that humble leadership, and you know, people almost wanting to follow this guy and the way that he portrays himself to be. He's a great human being, and the amount of respect he's got for the coaching, call it staff, from under 14s all the way through to the first team. You know, he's such a supportive role. He was alluding to the fact that he'll get involved in the coaching as well this year. But you know, it's not an egotistical thing. It's more of, you know, wanting to get involved, being closer to the field, you know, assisting the guys wherever he can. And like you rightfully said, he had a wonderful career with the Sharks and then also with the Boks. And you know, for a guy to step into that role, he spoke a bit off the camera. He went to the corporate environment first, but you know, there's just some guys where rugby never leaves them. Yeah. And you know, it's a passion thing, it's a heart thing, and they will always be successful, especially in a school environment. Yeah, Johnny, I think that humble factor is extremely important.
I also think identity. So let's talk a bit about identity. Very few people walking on this earth truly understands who they are, body, mind and soul. Okay. And my perception again is that Keegan knows exactly who he is. I asked an interesting question, and the reason I asked it, you must understand that we're not part of the Kearsney inner circle. You know, it's extremely successful people sending their children there. You know, if you look only at the school fees per annum. So by default, when you look at CEOs and execs of companies and owners of their own businesses, they're strong-willed people, you know, because they normally make the decisions in a school. Now you send your kid to a school like Kearsney, and I would assume sometimes that, you know, as you make decisions in your business, you would like to make certain decisions, you know, in the schooling system when it comes to your kid. And you need an extreme strong director of rugby, you know, to manage that expectation. And it starts with, who are you? You've got to, your identity's got to be solid. And that's what I took from Keegan. He knows exactly who he is. He knows exactly where he's going. And that's the type of personality that can deal with strong-willed people. I'm not negative or derogative when I say these people. I'm not saying, I mean, we respect them. That's these type of people that lead the country. But yeah, they've got strong characters, you know, and you need a strong director of rugby to match that, you know, and for the viewers from the outer circle, not being part of that school, to see and to look at Keegan and understand why he's in that role, because he understands who he is, and so that's the typical director of rugby that you need at a school like that, to really take the school forward at the end of the day.
Yeah, I truly believe, you know, and again, we said this earlier as well in some of the other episodes. When you appoint a director of rugby, it's a long-term thing. It shouldn't be a short-term thing. And that plan, whoever makes that decision, whether it's a governing body or the headmaster or whoever that is, you know, there's a lot of factors to take into, you know, put into that equation. And what you just said is probably one of the most important ones. You know, you are going to get involvement from parents and old boys, etc. And you need a guy that can handle that.
Yeah, I think, I think the reality is that DNA differs at every school.
Absolutely.
And part and parcel of who you're going to appoint to drive this boat, it's got to fit the DNA. Right. You know, at an office in a pole gym and a boys' eye, it's different strokes for different blokes, you know, and there's a certain DNA at Kearsney that you've got to manage, and you've got to make sure that you get the right seat filled on the bus. And I think Keegan for that school is the perfect guy.
Yeah, and again, if everybody involved, like we said earlier, just gets behind him, you know, just support this guy with everything you've got, from schools management all the way to parents, you will see the difference. You will see the progression. I'm 100% sure of that. We had the privilege to also, you know, have a conversation with some of the players, and this interview is brought to you by Medihelp. Jana, Klanda, it's an absolute pleasure to invite you guys into your clubhouse, into your holy ground. You guys both played for the first team this year, grade 11 still, so next year is your final year. You had great successes this year, actually with a very young team. I think the majority of your side was on grade 11s.
Yes.
So obviously looking forward to a very good season next year with a nice base, having worked with Bashi and Tera already. So how do you guys feel about next year?
Obviously from the back of this year we learned a lot, and I feel like we've kind of matured as well as players, and we've learned a lot from the seniors. And we had a couple of big Old Boys Day games which we did learn a lot from, so next year will put us in a good position starting next year, and also just bring that energy as well to the juniors coming in. And I feel like it will be a good bunch of players next year, so, and the lot to come from that, but then you just have to put the work in and just show it on the field.
Absolutely. Kiana?
Yeah, I think we had a great season so far, or we did have a great season. We had a new coaching staff come in, so there's a lot of new stuff to get used to, a new game plan, and I think we all just trusted the process, and we should have a good year next year with the experienced team.
Fantastic. You both borders, right? And so there's Bashi spoke a lot about fun, having fun. For him, that's very important, that you guys, yes, it's a strenuous program, and yes, there's a lot, but he seriously puts focus on the fun component of, because it is a sport and you must have fun while doing it. So I'm going to ask you a couple of different questions other than rugby. So who's the biggest joker in the side?
I'd probably say Joseph Roylance. He was a bit of a joker.
So why would that be?
Yeah, you know, always at practice he would come and he'd make jokes, or he's always laughing, and you never really saw him like being serious. He's always making jokes with the rest of the team.
Okay, so who's the guy that always comes late?
It's between maybe our fullback, Lozi sometimes, but he's always like at extra lessons and stuff, so it's understandable.
Oh, so there's reasons
like
why he's late.
Yeah.
Okay, and who eats the most?
Definitely Luke Foray.
I eat a lot. I definitely eat a lot.
Is he one of the props?
Yes, sir.
Well, then it's merit. You know, he must get some good food in him. Let's talk about being a rugby player and a boarder and with all the other stuff that happens at this amazing school. So how disciplined do you have to be to get to all of these programs, to make sure that your personal discipline is in place to really achieve what you want to?
I feel like, so with that being said, it's just having the discipline to like know day in, day out what you're going to do. I feel like having a schedule would make you feel much at ease, because at times at Kearsney, there's a lot of stuff on our schedule, as much as like assessments and all those things. So I feel like just having a schedule and just knowing how you're going to approach each day, it helps a lot. And obviously it's very busy with rugby and there's a lot of expectations. But if you just put your head down and just stay disciplined each day in, day out, and I feel like you'll get through it too.
Yeah, Bashi spoke a lot about character, and it's something that that is important in every rugby side. You know, each player needs character, because it's hard work, because there's discipline involved. So, do you feel that you guys have that character, Kiana, in the side?
Yeah, definitely. There was, I think, 3 games this season where we were down by more than 10 points with 5 minutes to go, and we ended up winning. So, you know, there's just those grits in the last couple moments of the game where you really have to push and show character, and I think we showcased it well this year.
So tell me something. You obviously, the Durban schools, or call it KZN schools, are quite competitive, and there's some good programs going on elsewhere. We've visited DHS, we've visited Westville, we've seen Kearsney, you guys, and then obviously we saw Medihelp College up the road. So how strong do you think the competition is going to be for next year?
Yeah, it'll definitely be very strong. Obviously, we played a lot with them, because some of them were our teammates at Academy Week, and I think we're all just looking forward to next year to see who can be the top school in the KZN.
And you're all good mates. I mean, all of you played together at national levels, etc. So, how good is that camaraderie off the field between the schools?
We know obviously on the field, like, we take each other and you have to go hard on each other, but then off the field we're still like friends. We have the friendship and we can laugh and just speak about everything of the game. So I feel like it's just a matter of like switching off after the game and just able to like be friends and just carry on like normal conversations with the other people.
You've had the privilege to be at the SA schools, and congratulations on that, especially at grade 11. You guys have both been involved with the Sharks setup, and we've been speaking about it pretty much in every episode up until now. The Sharks has really catched up big time when it comes to your national weeks. How do you find the Natal, call it the Sharks environment, when you guys are there with the new coaching and everybody involved there? How focused are they to get Sharks rugby to a new level? Well, I'd say for our age group particularly, we've been very lucky, because our coach Cornelia Ngema, he's been with us under 15, under 16 and under 17, so he's come through with us, and a lot of the players in the system has remained the same. So it's not, even if there is someone new, it's very easy to adapt to and easy to learn. So it's very welcoming, and it's nice to have the same people there. And yourself? Myself, Keagan and I obviously have been in the system for like a long time, sir. So we know, as for Sharks, there's a certain level of expectation, sir, of always having to perform. So when you go out there, sir, we just know there's like literally one job to do, sir, to represent the province in a good way and just to bring the results in. At the same time, just having the culture and obviously just shutting down on like all the different schools and just coming together as one to a common goal, sir. Fantastic. You guys, obviously, there's some amazing juniors coming through as well. How important do you think the role of a first team player is to influence those boys in being disciplined, being, on time, making sure that you have that loyalty and camaraderie with your teammates? Yeah, it's major. Like, we need to hold them accountable, and they also need to hold us accountable. So this year I was lucky enough to have the vice captain Duan Knowles on my outside centre. He really mentored me and took me under his wing, and I think that really helped me. So I hope I can have that same impact with the juniors coming through and hopefully help them to adapt as quick as possible to get into the first team setup. And is it that pride is still massive for the school when you guys run onto the field? So just like obviously just in the crowd, and when you run onto the field, it just feels so real, so, and just want to perform, and just like there's this certain urge in your body, so you just go out there and just play and have fun with your team. So guys, we can't wait to see you. We'll be back for a derby to come and feature you guys and see how it goes. And good luck for the season, obviously off season, your preparation going into that. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys play.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Maybe you hate broccoli or love scary movies. Maybe you're indecisive, adventurous, or always kind. Maybe you snore, have a secret creative talent, or no sense of direction. We don't pretend to know you, but we know certain things get you going. And at Medihelp Medical Scheme, we know about healthcare, as we've been doing it for 120 years. Visit medihelp.co.za for all the information about our plans for everybody.
Yes, Thijs, these boys are really proud of their school, and they look up to their coaches and what's happening in Kearsney at the moment. And they are bought into this setup.
Yeah, absolutely sold on it. And again, they've tasted some success already with the Shark setups and all the rest of it. But they both spoke about, you know, the traditions in the school and how important it was for them as grade 11s to learn from their senior players, which was the grade 12s obviously of this year, and you know, the lessons they've learned and you know, the way they looked up to those guys, and also understand that they're wearing that mantle now. They are those seniors now that has to do the same, and just the excitement. I mean, they know it's going to be hard work because Bashi is not going to make it easy. They want to, you know, be a fit and you know, a powerful team. So they will definitely put in the hard work, but they're very excited about it. And again, the squad is bigger. It's an inclusive
Definitely,
setup.
I just wanted to,
Yeah, they invite them. I mean, again, it's funny. I think we say it way too often, probably, but we must say it. They bring every boy that wants to commit to playing rugby in a senior setup. They provide that opportunity.
And it's a KZN thing.
I mean,
it's really just a KZN thing.
100%. We've seen it at every single one of those schools. We're not going to set a limit to a certain number or you know, who's part of the senior squad or not. They, you know, open door. If you are willing to work hard, if you're willing to put in the ethos of what we are trying to achieve, you're in. I mean, you can work hard. Hey, Johnny?
For me, it's about significance. Look, whether you buy a burger from Burger King or you buy a burger from Steers, both are burgers. They don't taste the same, but all roads lead to Rome. What's fantastic to see with all these schools is the end goal is exactly the same. The road of how we're going to arrive there might differ and might have a couple more stumbling blocks and robots and stop streets, but the end goal is we want to create holistic Springbok children. You know, and what caught my attention with these two boys, you can see it from Kearsney College. There's I want to call it almost a humble tradition of pride. You know, there's no arrogance. You know, it's humble. The tradition is humble. I sense that from the kids. They're extremely proud to be part of that school. It's got nothing to do with money.
Yeah.
It's got nothing to do with what my father drives or how thick my wallet is. It's about I'm being part of this incredible community of Kearsney College. And you know, then you get exactly the same at Durban High School and at Westville. You know, it might differ a bit. You know, the fingerprint differs. But it's incredible, humbling, and a privilege to see that this country has got incredible schools. I give you my word, not one of the schools that we visited is a bad school. They're all exceptional schools, whether it's a private school, whether it's a school in a region that traditionally would not feature. There's something about teachers and coaches in this country that we should really respect. You know, as parents, we normally point fingers and say that teacher is doing that and that marks that and this teacher that. I don't think we understand how much time and dedication teachers and coaches go through to raise our kids. The reality is our children spend more time at school than what they spend at home. So I want South Africa and South African parents to stand back just 2 yards And to raise your hands and to clap for what these people are doing in the lives of our children. You can go try and find this overseas.
Yeah.
There's not a better schooling system in the world like in South Africa.
Definitely.
From a teacher, to a coach, to a director of rugby. Incredible schools. Kearsney, just another incredible school with a great future. And that's ultimately to change the narrative of our future generation.
I think the viewers would understand our expression of thanks and gratefulness to have had the opportunity to visit KZN. The amount we've learned, just from a Blindside perspective, is absolutely immense, and I hope we brought that to our viewers, and our sincere hope and wish is for every single one of the guys watching this, all the parents watching this, etc., to really get behind their boys first of all, and behind these coaches and schools and everybody involved.
I think from a timing perspective, Thijs, it's crucial to let everybody know. We've got a lot of views, and it's going to grow exponentially every week. Our biggest core ideology of this program is to create a Blindside community that takes accountability, that understands responsibility. So, sooner rather than later, we're going to start with merchandise. And whether it's a Blindside cap or whether it's a Blindside jacket, it's not for us to make money with selling a cap.
Yeah.
It's about the message that when you wear a Blindside cap, you're part of a community in South African schoolboy rugby that cares, that understands, that respects. And that's what we're going to do. And that's what the show is all about. To stop being negative, to stop being pessimistic, to stop judging, and to form part of a great society. We as Blindside say, we're gonna really stand together. We're gonna accommodate, respect the diversity of people. And that's what Blindside's going to do, and we'll not stop with that.
Absolutely, and you'll be proud to wear this badge.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, it'll be an honor to wear this badge and be part of this community.
You're part of that statue of responsibility.
Yeah.
We will choose our response under any given set of circumstances, and that's what Blindside's all about.
100%. Thank you so much for subscribing, and if you haven't yet, please press on the button to subscribe. It's absolutely free, and we cannot wait to see. Our next road trip was to the Western Cape, where we've met some amazing schools, and obviously visited the Union as well. And we cannot wait to see you on the next episode. Have a good one.